Blessed love, everyone, and welcome. This week on Ira Talk Jamaica, we are celebrating a true Jamaican institution, Clement Sir Coxsone Dodd, in the halo of his 94th birthday, celebrated on January 26th. This is about placing Jamaica correctly inside the global story of Black music history, where Jamaica is not a central force and where Coxsone is not just a producer, but what I call an architect producer. Because in every great Black music era, they are the artists, and then they are the builders, the people who created systems, catalogs, and pipelines that still power the world today. In the early 1930s, you have figures like John Hammond at Columbia Records, the talent scout and gate opener, the one who helped move jazz genius into recorded history. Then you reach 1950, Chess Records is founded in Chicago. Chess is a roots pipeline, capturing blues and turning it into a catalog that becomes a global template for everything that comes after. Then October 1947, Atlantic Records is founded by Ahmet Ertegun, and Atlantic becomes a strategic pipeline for jazz, R&B, and soul, moving from community into world markets. Then February 1952, Sun Records is launched by Sam Phillips, and Sun shows how one studio can become a global turning point because sound capture is power. And then January 12, 1959, Berry Gordy launches Tamla, leading into Motown, and that becomes the full factory model. Coxsone belongs in that lineage because by the time Motown is rising, Coxsone is rising too. Coxsone founded World Disc in 1959, and then in 1963, he opened studioone. So while America is building Motown, Jamaica is building studioone. This is not coincidence. This is global Black genius building parallel institutions. Now, most people tell the studioone story through singers, but I want to honor Coxsone properly through the musicians, because singers are the face, but musicians are the architecture behind the face. Studioone is where jazz musicianship became Jamaican industry. From jazz discipline to ska energy to rocksteady refinement and then onward. And then this evolution is carried by the Jamaican studio bands and the players who define each era. That's why we speak of the Scatolites not just as a group, but as an institution, and why the evolution into the soul vendors and then into Sound Dimension is so important. Because Sound Dimension represents a moment where Jamaica moves from simply recording songs to designing rhythms. And when rhythm becomes the organizing principle, you have now created a system that can reproduce culture at scale. That is Coxsone's genius. He industrialized Jamaican creativity without killing its soul. And now, let me correct something that's often misunderstood. Dancehall didn't come after reggae like a sequel. Dancehall developed in parallel with reggae. Both of them come from the same rhythmic evolution, especially out of the Sound Dimension era, where rhythm becomes architecture. Reggae becomes a global song, form, and message tradition. Dancehall becomes a live marketplace and social technology built on sound system culture, MC dominance, competition, and the dance floor economy. Same roots, same engine room, different expression, parallel timeline. And that matters because it means dancehall is not secondary. Dancehall is one of the blueprint's highest achievements. Now I want to add the deeper layer that makes Coxsone's story truly international. Jamaican music was not created in isolation. It was formed inside a circular system between Jamaica and the United States, where musicianship, culture, and technology moved back and forth. Jazz records, radio signals, touring energy, shipping routes, diaspora contact. These were the pathways. And Jamaica didn't just absorb it, Jamaica translated it. The sound system itself is technology turned into community power that expands the circuit even further. October 3rd, 1965, the Immigration and Nationality Act, known as Hart-Celler, is signed. This expands Caribbean migration into U.S. cities, and New York becomes one of the biggest convergence points. And Coxsone follows this reality. In 1979, Coxsone establishes Coxsone's Music City in Brooklyn while maintaining Jamaica. So by then, Brooklyn becomes a second Kingston. This is where diaspora markets start to multiply the influence, not just culture, but commerce. Because diaspora cities are not just places people live, they are cultural laboratories. And it's through that diaspora circuitry that dance halls' influence radiates into global genre economies, including hip-hop, reggaeton, and Afrobeats. But because the Jamaican sound system logic, which is rhythm, version culture, DJ cadence, dance floor energy, becomes embedded in global music behavior. So when we talk about Coxsone, we're talking about a man who built the root engine, and the diaspora became a multiplier. As Jamaican music grows, distribution becomes the battlefield. You have Island Records representing one global pipeline for Jamaican music, and you have VP Records, founded in 1979 in New York, representing a diaspora distribution powerhouse that becomes a major channel for Jamaican music's modern reach. But what has changed now is this. We are in an era where reused rhythms, reused patterns, reused foundations works are increasingly being challenged through copyright and attribution. Because in the digital era, everything is traceable. So the same rhythm culture that made Jamaican music powerful now requires a rights framework that protects who built the foundations. And this is why Coxsone's legacy is not only cultural, it is legal, it is economic, and it is institutional. And now we reach the future context. We're in a moment where immigration conditions are tightening, travel is more restricted, and mobility is under pressure. That matters because movement is how Jamaican artists tour, earn, collaborate, and sustain diaspora ties. At the same time, we're entering the AI economy. And in the AI economy, culture won't just travel, it will be replicated. That means Jamaican music's future requires more than talent. It requires infrastructure, catalog governance, metadata, rights clarity, licensing rails, because the people who govern the archive govern the future value. So today we celebrate Sir Coxsone Dodd properly, not just as a man of the past, but as a builder of systems that still shape the present. studioone is not nostalgia. studioone is infrastructure. And Jamaica is not outside the American Black music matrix. Jamaica is embedded in it through circularity, migration, technology transfer, and global influence. Happy Earth Strong, Sir Coxsone. Respect due forever.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Max.
Absorbing.
I have a question. All right, go ahead, Lance. Oh, I understand it, Maxine. In the early years, before Coxsone ventured into the sound system, he basically started out more like a distributor of American music, right?
No. What was happening, I think, from the 1930s as the development of the phonograph record player and the technology. You first had the live bands coming into Jamaica, right? So the clubs were the basic, and the jukeboxes. You know what I mean? We were really listening outside of our folk music culture, like Mento and, however we, participated then. We were just really listening to American music through the radio station RJR, Radio Diffuse, Radio Jamaica. And because we are the third, the largest English-speaking border to America, and the closest, because Haiti is French, Cuba is Spanish, we picked up on that music culture. And at the same time, where Coxsone got involved, actually, he was a farm worker, the traveling farm worker between, Jamaica and down south. And so he became having access to the music directly, like he could get the records from America and bring them in to trade, or not really so much to trade for him, but to play on the sound system, because the sound system competition was about who have a record that the other person don't have, like him and Duke Reed or Prince Buster, etc. The competition was about who have the hot rhythm and blues tracks, and then is within that time now, or helped by that time, that the guy who developed the sound system, Headley Jones, right? He was an electronics person, like fixing radios, and coming out of the Navy, he knows the sound amplification. So he develops a sound system to compete with other people who are bringing in records en masse, like bringing in records to trade. And the guy, what's his name? He was keeping parties, Thomas Wong. Across the street, he had a hardware store. So he heard Headley Jones' system and said, wow, I want one of those. And that is known as the first sound system. It's Tom the Sebastian. Right. He's noted as the first. He gave the name sound system to this amplified recording device that was, worked on by Headley Jones. And then Headley Jones, his success with that sound system, Headley Jones went on to make most of he certainly made Mr. Dodd's sound system, he made Dupree's sound system, the top sound systems of the day. He was the electronics person. So these sound systems now created more demand for the records, right? So that's what started this Jamaican music industry, the distribution. It wasn't of our own records. It was of the American rhythm and blues and jazz, records. So when American music shifted from rhythm and blues to rock and roll, the Jamaican public, didn't go for that. Move with it. So that's when the sound system operators now had to go into the studios to start making music. So they started to make early rhythm and blues, Jamaican style. And at that time now the Nyabingi culture came in, Count Ozzy and, all the horn musicians that were playing with Count Ozzy up in Warker Hills, Dizzy Johnny, all the jazz musicians used to go up there and, experiment and innovate. So that is what came together and created ska. That fusion now of the rhythm and blues and the nyabingi, energy. And Counters is someone that would have, even in the dances, like every 12 o'clock at Coxsone dances, Counters would come in and play his nyabingi sessions, I wasn't around at the time, I don't know so much, if anyone would have remembered those kind of, what those blues dances were like, So with the coming together of independence now, and Coxsone building his own studio, because I think before that now, it would have been, everybody would be using, I think JBC studio and Federal, studios were being built, either the radio station and or I think the Courier brothers here. So they were using those studios and just innovating. And it's also interesting to note that in those times, like at the Ward Theatre, etc., Fats Domino, all the top rhythm and blues groups and stars, Jackie,
We're coming to Jamaica.
were coming to Jamaica, right? It was a regular stop for the Black American music and artists. And so, in stating the point of this is that how much our own culture is built on the absorption and reinterpretation and, mixing with our local, sounds and our movement, which is why I spoke about the Immigration Act. Our first immigration into the States would have been in the times of Marcus Garvey, when everyone, having gone to build the Panama Canal, on its completion, they didn't come back into Jamaica. They went into New York. Not just Jamaicans, most Caribbean people that went down to Panama. And at the same time that they came in, the Black Americans were moving from the south to the north in that same 1920s, 30s period. And that was
Great migration.
the Great Migration. And that was I would say, the first major influence now of the Jamaican and or Caribbean, merging with the Black American culture in what we understand as the Harlem Renaissance period. Right, And so within that time was also the technology, which is now the record player, right, coming in, and jazz through the record player and through that manufacturing. That is when the music out of Harlem or New York, etc., went to the world. The distribution of music or recorded music. Because that is when, for example, Columbia Records, Decca, a lot of these labels that even as I went into the record industry, I thought these were actually music labels, but they were actually manufacturers of equipment, music equipment, that then produced the music in order to sell their equipment.